Andrew Urquhart with you on the program today. Hey, something that the world has just too little of, looking for some hope perhaps as we head into nearly the final month of the year, Christmas around the corner, and I know a lot of people are doing it pretty tough at the moment, particularly with unemployment rising and prices also rising and perhaps things looking a bit bleak as we head into Christmas. Looking for some hope on the horizon. Joining me on the program now is Paul Barber. He is Senior Social Policy Analyst for the Salvation Army Social Policy Unit in Wellington. Paul, kia ora, good morning.
Yeah, kia ora, good morning. Good to be on the show. Thank you.
And now, firstly, wanting to talk about the a child and youth strategy. Now, there's been a change of policy here. Of course, we've had a change of government since the last policy document was put in place. And we have honestly seen a little bit of this in the first year of the coalition government, that it's out with the old and in with the new. As a policy analyst, is this frustrating that we've just got one policy in for a period of time, and with the change of government, that's all thrown out, and they try a different strategy? Is that what's happening here?
Well, yeah, I think that's one part of the work of being advocates for justice and for hope in our communities, is that governments change, emphasis changes, and our job is to be in that struggle to ensure that the focus still stays on improving the lives of those on the margins.
Yep.
And I guess the good news out of today is that although there's a slight change of name, it's the wellbeing has been dropped from the title. In essence, this strategy is a continuation of work that on child poverty reduction that was begun under the previous government and negotiated between the main parties under the previous government, and the Minister, Louise Upston, today made a very clear commitment to keeping to that process of strategy work. So the commitment's still there to address child poverty and hardship. The strategy has been refreshed, slightly renamed. It's a child and youth strategy for 2024 to 2027. Mm-hmm. But the point of it is that it does set some goals and some targets that this government wants to achieve. And those are things that they are asking them to be held accountable for.
Well, that is very good news, again, and perhaps surprising, given some of the other changes that we've seen, that there is a commitment to a long-term strategy for tackling child poverty for children and youth in our nation, because, I mean, this is something which needs a longer-term strategy more than a political cycle, of course.
Yeah, well, the Minister named three main focus areas for this work. And that's around working what they call the first 2,000 days, those first 5 years, I think that is, of a child's life, including the time before birth. Secondly, around reducing material hardship for children, which is about reducing the number of children going without essentials in life, like doctor's visits, like adequate clothing, food, and so on. And thirdly, reducing harm against children. And you cannot argue with those as goals. Those are things that we're monitoring and working on in our work. We're seeing the consequences of hardship and the danger, the pressures on children and families every day in the work of our people. So it's a welcome commitment.
Yep. I mean, admirable goals, but are we seeing progress towards those goals, and are we seeing the policies in place that would push us in that direction, do you think?
Yeah, well, that is, of course, is the reality check on all this. Minister today announced that she wants to see 17,000 fewer children in hardship by 2027. In the previous 4 years, between 2019 and 2023, the number of children in hardship was actually only reduced by about 5,000, and that was despite a lot of effort put in to reduce hardship and increase incomes. And it shows it's not an easy thing to do. Mm-hmm. And her task is being made harder right now, just as we're seeing all around us signs of hardship increasing. That means we can fully expect that when the 2024 figures for child poverty released in February of next year, they'll be showing an increase in that material hardship.
Now, some of that's no doubt as a result of broader economic issues, but some of it perhaps directly related to some recent policy changes, do you think?
Yeah, well, that's this week, figures came out from the National Health Survey and one of the things they looked at is food insecurity. So children in households where they go without food, that's regularly or sometimes. That number has increased sharply this year, more than 1 in 4 children overall. And the most shocking thing for me was seeing that more than half of Pacifica children miss out regularly on food.
Gosh,
that's unconscionable in a wealthy country like ours. That is a huge, and that feeds in. That's one of the key parts of the material hardship measure. So we have been going, and what's been contributing to that hardship has been things like people losing employment, direct support such as reductions in how the food and schools work is applied, and reduction in access to specific welfare assistance like food grants. So you have to ask yourself, how are we going to get to this goal if the families are losing employment and seeing their incomes reduced as a result, if they seek welfare assistance and find it's harder to get, and if the schools that they've been working with to help, for instance, with those healthy lunch programs, if those themselves start to be cut back or reduced.
Yeah. No, it's certainly some bleak reading there. How do we reconcile this? Because, I mean, as I mentioned beforehand, we're just about in Advent, honestly. It will be Christmas before you know it. And I mean, there's good things to celebrate with the Christmas season, but this is going to put, I suppose, social pressure on families doing it tough even more because they want to do something nice for their children. It's a difficult season and things are only going to get tougher as we get to Christmas. I mean, it's a long-term strategy, but any hope for struggling families this Christmas, do you think, Paul?
I wish I could say there was hope coming from these kind of policy decisions and discussions, but I fear not. Because there is a view, it seems, that we've got to go through this tough time before things will get better. However, that not everyone shares that tough time equally. And the communities where the Salvation Army is working and other NGOs are there trying to provide support where that burden's landing most. People in our communities are seeing more of them are losing jobs than in other areas, perhaps. You're seeing people perhaps keeping employment, but just not earning so much. People are going to start turning, for instance, to the other sources of credits, which are, you want to do something for Christmas and you might borrow to try and get over the line. And that creates its own set of hardships further down the line. And we're seeing, again, the signs of financial hardship growing and the capacity to respond. So, yeah, I'm afraid I'm sounding a bit like, this is not the hope story that you want to be offering from a perspective of the government. And that's where, however, it is important that our communities, that us, we as individuals, participate in looking for those opportunities to make a difference. And those opportunities, of course, can be on a small scale locally, but we also need to be reminding our politicians, if you're going to make commitments to make a difference for children who are our taonga, they're our future, literally, then start delivering sooner rather than later.
And of course, it's great to have policies which take us into the future, but that doesn't necessarily help children who are going without food in New Zealand this week. Paul, thank you so much as well for the work that the Salvation Army does in this space, reaching out to families. I know you'll have some particular programs for the Christmas season as well. And yes, government policy should be in line, but it's perhaps too easy to blame the government. A responsibility for all of us, and particularly from the faith community, as we look forward to celebrating Christmas with friends and family, to make charitable giving a part of that celebration, to support wonderful organisations such as the Salvation Army, and there's others involved as well, that are doing the good work in that space, that are the stopgap between the long-term policy strategy and the immediate needs. People can connect with what you're doing. They can be a part of it this Christmas.
Well, absolutely. As every year, our Christmas appeal is running through the Salvation Army, and this is the time where we do urge people to look to how you can contribute directly to bring some cheer, bring some hope to people's lives. So be beside us. I have to admit, I don't have the link available, but
well, no, that's fine. I'm
website,
sure if they go to salvationarmy.org.nz, they'll be able to find it there from the homepage.
Yes,
but again,
absolutely.
Paul, kia ora, thank you so much for the work you do. Thanks for joining us today.
Kia ora, thanks.
Hey, thanks very much for joining us in the Rhema studio. Thanks very much for watching the interview. It's kind of nice to have an audience, actually. And if you did like what you watched, then do give us a like, do give us the thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more interviews like that one, or perhaps even better, subscribe and those interviews will come straight to you. Don't forget to turn on your notifications, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.